Good evening, everybody. A few people here before me. That's great. So glad that you could find some time for yourself tonight. We're taking a Yin Yoga class. If you've never done Yin Yoga before, there's no expectation or need to have done any previous yoga practice at all. It's actually very simple style class, which means that it's easy to follow along. It's slow as well, and it's very grounding class. Most of the postures are on the floor, which means we're really just going to chill out. There's a few strong stretches in there actually, which can be a little bit more of a challenge for those that want to take that, but you can always back off and make it easier. The only rule with this particular style class is to make sure that you do what feels right in your body. Back off or stop the posture if you feel it's too intense for you to manage. Okay. Also, I wanted to show you my t-shirt. Some of you might remember this t-shirt. I've had this t-shirt for a long time. We used these t-shirts once in one of our promotional events down in the seafront. But I just wanted to say that these will be going free, not the t-shirt, the hugs, right? When we get the studio open again. So I've been wearing it all day actually, and I just thought I'd keep it on for the session. But some of you might remember joining in with the event where we basically hugged pretty much everybody in Bangor for most of the day. Hope you're all feeling well. No equipment necessary apart from a blanket. It's not essential anyway, so if you don't have one handy, you haven't got time to get one, that's fine, no worries. But let's come and lay down on the mat. And when you lay down, you're looking to get yourself comfortable. Let's bend the knees, have the feet flat to the floor. You can use that blanket if you need, in any way that suits, but allow yourself some time to gently settle in. So let the feet rest, the legs feel otherwise heavy, the knees bend, of course, allowing the lower back to gently relax, and let the arms rest slightly out to the side. Turn the palms to the sky, let the shoulders naturally drop towards the mat, but don't force them back. Maybe you've already closed your eyes. Relaxing the face. Relaxing the body as much as you're able to. Notice where the body is holding tension. And even just that awareness of tension can make or help it to ease slightly. Noticing is the first step in helping to release. See how it feels to breathe through your nose tonight for both the in-breath and the out-breath. Encouraging the breath to be slow and the breath to be long. Long as in taking your time to breathe, not rushing your breath. So the breath is gentle. The breath is free to move in the body, partly assisted by the fact that we're relaxing around the abdomen and the ribs and the chest and shoulders. And so the more you relax there, the more you'll be able to potentially feel the rise of your in-breath and the fall of your out-breath. Feel the rise of the in-breath and the fall of the out-breath. Notice how it feels to just pause the body and do nothing but observe your breath. And look, if you don't find that this class pans out tonight, so you're interrupted or you can't stay for the duration, remember you can always take your own practice in the form of taking a pause, taking a brief rest, observing what you find. Okay. So we're going to stay on our back actually. We're going to begin to move the legs and then the arms as well. But what I'd like you to do at this point is let your left knee move wide so that the outside of the left foot is on the mat. And then lift your right knee into your chest. So you're lifting your right foot off the floor. Now we're not actually going to hold the leg. I'm just holding it there. But what you're going to do is circle the knee. So you're going to circle the right knee, as big a circle as you can make it. And when you do this movement, you will probably rock and roll around on your pelvis. That's fine. That doesn't matter. What you're aiming to do here is get into the hip joint, the right hip joint. So trying to move to a fairly big range of motion in the hip joint. Just seeing, also checking in, noticing what you find in your hips tonight. And yes, you probably gathered, yes, we're going to look at the hips in some of the postures tonight. So if you feel tight, you can use this as a gauge to, figure out actually maybe when you come to one of the stronger postures, you might need to back off if it feels like it's going to be quite intense for you. So using this to inform your practice. We're going to rest down with the right foot to the floor and we're going to switch over. So your right foot is on the outside edge of the right foot, your right knee wide, of course, and then your left knee in. Circle with the left knee. Doesn't really matter which way you went. Don't worry too much. Just circling the left side as big as you can to move into the hip joint as much as you can. I don't know about you, but I've been doing lots more sitting than I would normally choose to do, and it's definitely having an effect on my hips and my lower back. And so for me, this was the tonic tonight. It's just the thing I thought maybe you would appreciate as well. Okay, so we're going to stay on the back a little bit longer. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. So basically the two knees wide apart away from each other on the outside edges of both feet. And without forcing the knees down, we're just going to hang out here with the hips gently opening a little bit before we move on to our first yin posture. What we're going to do is bring the arms into this posture while we're laid here. And you can either hold, and there's several options here, depending on how it feels in your shoulders. You can hold your wrist. You might want to hold your elbows to frame the head with your arms. Or if it's too intense, you can have your elbows wider. So you can, of course, separate the hands and arms if you need to, and let the arms come out to the side. Otherwise, if you're able to reach your arms, let the arms settle, let the shoulders gently relax. Try to keep your lower back ribs gently connected to the mat. By the way, if you can hear that squeaky sound on our videos, we have a gate just at the side of the conservatory and it blows in the wind. We've tried everything to wedge it to stop it from moving, but anyway, just so you know, put you in context. Steady breaths in and out through the nose. And then gently releasing your arms. A little bit of warmth in your arms and your hips. And then drawing the knees together. Take your time to move. Lift the feet from the floor. Hug the legs in towards your chest. And then rolling over to whichever side works. So you bring yourself up. We're going to turn onto the knees. So we're going to face down. And have enough space at the front of your mat for your arms in a few moments. But we're going to have the feet towards the back of the mat, hips towards the heels. Don't force your hips back. If you find that your hips don't connect with your feet, folding the abdomen down and then reaching the hands forward. So come up onto the fingertips rather than the palms flat, which just gives a little bit more space. It also means that your hands and arms are active. I want you to thread your right arm through the left arm, so the right arm's threading through the left. So you're turning towards your left side as if you could almost look through your left arm. Partly twisting, it's kind of a gentle twist, but mainly for your shoulder actually. So reach through as far as you can. And then allow your upper body weight to gently rest into that right arm. So relaxing in rather than forcing yourself down. And steady breaths. Let's release. So let's begin to move to the second side. Right fingertips down. Thread the left arm across. And again, reach as far as you can. Let the weight settle into the back of the left arm. Feeling maybe a little bit of a gentle stretch to wake up the left shoulder or the outside of the left shoulder. And then releasing to bring both hands back to the middle. Rise up onto your knees so that when you come up, your hips are over your knees, your feet relaxed however you prefer. And now reaching your hands forward so they're beyond your shoulders. Your hands are beyond your shoulders. Palms flat to the floor. Press into the hands and allow the chest to ease towards the mat without forcing it down. It's still quite a big sensation without forcing because of the effect of gravity. And the fact that we've got the hands pressing, the forearms lifted, will mean you can probably feel this quite quickly within your shoulders. Do your best to keep your shoulders moving wide across the back of your chest so that you're easing them away from your ears. Don't worry if your head is nowhere near the floor. Try to keep your elbows straight so the arms as straight as you can. Press firm into the hands. Steady breaths. Just a few more breaths. Slowly releasing, coming all the way up, taking your time to bring your wrists back under your shoulders. Okay, so you can stay facing the direction you're in. I'm going to turn around just because I want to show you the right side. Have a lay down on your front, all the way onto your abdomen. And scoot yourself over onto the left side of your mat. Just slightly off center to set up the posture. Reach your right hand out to the side. So your right wrist is at the level of your right shoulder. The palm facing down and your right arm straight. You can do this as a bent arm version, but it's much more intense. And I think without bending the arm, it's enough sensation for most people here. So you're going to keep your right palm facing the floor. And now you're going to gently turn. Notice the word gentle because it can be pretty intense. You're going to turn onto your right side. So you're turning gradually over, more or less depending on how it feels. So go by sensation. When you feel enough sensation, stop and support yourself in this position. Note if you need to back off from where you went to, because we're going to stay here. You could even use that blanket to prop up your head if it's handy enough. Legs bent is my preference because it means that I can be stable down around the lower body and rest in this position. Some of you who are fairly flexible, and you have to be fairly flexible in your shoulders, could roll a little bit further, which means you could almost roll onto the back of your pelvis. But even if the pelvis isn't flat to the floor, you can support yourself by bringing the feet flat to the floor. This just adds more sensation, which might be necessary for some of you. It might be that you don't want to go anywhere near this. Otherwise, resting as much as you can. So try and be passive around the sensation. So around your right shoulder, around your arm, let it rest, let it be still, let the shoulder area, muscles around the shoulder area relax as much as possible. Assist yourself in this practice by following your breath. So even though we're starting to do strange shapes with the body, stay present to the breath, stay present to the rise of the in and the fall of the out breath. Notice how the breath feels when we move the body into an unusual shape. Stay for a few more breaths. And then slowly, gently roll away from that right arm, from the extended arm. And moving slowly in order to recover. Maybe take a pause, maybe bend the arm when you're ready. Okay, set up the second side. If you're using your blanket, bring you with you, but scoot yourself over to the right-hand side of your mat as you face the mat over to the right slightly. And then you're going to extend your left arm out behind you, palm facing down, wrist at shoulder height. Remember, we're doing a straight arm version here. And then you can gently begin to turn. No rush, but taking your time to settle up and set up the posture as well, if you're not quite ready. Turning onto the left side slightly or more, depending on, again, how you experience this. Support the head, maybe turning a little bit more if your body allows. We're all going to be so different in how this feels in the shoulders. I know my shoulders are quite tight at the minute, so If that's the same for you, bear that in mind. Bend the neck, bend the legs up, lower body supported enough to rest as much as you can. Rest the arm, relax around the left shoulder. Steady the breath. Again, this posture is to counteract all of the sitting and slouching that maybe you're doing as well. Notice it very much around my neck and shoulders the last few days. And you can feel the effect of this posture in helping to reverse that quite quickly, right? It's pretty intense at the same time as being a really useful sensation to feel like you can bring your shoulders back to life again. I guess it's one of those postures that feels better when you finish than when you're doing it, especially if it's quite intense for you. Remembering that when we do open the shoulders and the chest in this way, it helps our breathing actually. When we're slumped or rounded in the upper back chest, our airway gets smaller, our ribs collapse in, our lungs don't get as much expansion unless we're making the purposeful effort to breathe deeply. So this is another way to ensure that you're breathing full, giving yourself the scope to breathe well and feel well. Just a few more breaths here. Slowly release, take your time to exit the posture. Just as the fact that it took us a while to get to the end point of the posture, it does take some time for the body to recover those long held positions. Maybe bend your elbow when you get a chance to do so. Let the life come back into your left arm. And then slowly bring yourself up. Again, you can stay facing the way you are. I'm turning around just to help the visuals a little bit for those that need the guidance with the postures. If you've not done much yin before, you might not know where we're going just by the names alone. Okay, the next posture we're going to take is a hip-based posture. It is another intense posture. It's quite a stretch in the hips, so do what feels good. Back off if you need to. I've just padded up my knees with the blanket, and you might like to do the same again, because we're going to keep the left knee on the blanket and we're going to bring the right foot as far forward as you can actually. So you can literally drag the foot if it's not easy to step up, but you can bring it forward with your right hand. And you're going to walk the right foot out to the right side edge of your mat. So you're taking a wide stance, the right foot wide, which means then you can bring your hands, I think, a little bit easier on the inside of the right leg. Now you want to stay fairly low in the hips without forcing them down, but allowing them to rest down. You can then rest onto your hands. You can use your fists if your wrists get tired. If you're much more flexible, like the other posture, the last posture we did, if you're more flexible, you can go to a slightly deeper place, but it's personal. If bringing the elbows down is not possible, it doesn't make one bit of difference whether you do or don't. So hands down is great. Settle in, maybe close your eyes. And again, it's quite a big posture straight away. There's lots of sensation. So steady out your breath. Again, breath in and out through the nose. Don't stay here if it hurts. We're definitely not looking for pain, but there might be some intense sensation, which is kind of what we're looking for, but as long as it doesn't bridge over into pain, pain isn't useful. It's not part of this practice in any form. We do practice this one quite a lot in class. If you ever did get a chance to come to class, if you've never been to us before, or if you haven't been for a while, we do this one a lot. So a lot of our members of the classes would be very familiar with this posture, which I guess makes it, in some ways, more manageable if you're familiar with how this posture feels and where to go to in this. Your first time in some of these postures, you might find it's surprisingly intense, right? So don't force anything to happen. Certainly, the first few classes, I always advise new clients to be gentle and then see how they are the next few days after the class, and then use that as a method to inform, well, actually, maybe I could have gone a bit deeper in, or I shouldn't have gone as deep in. So go gentle in the first instance, and then you can decide from there on reflection. Okay, we're going to stay with the legs in this position. We're going to take a slightly different variation for a few breaths, not a long time. You're going to keep the legs exactly the same, and now you're going to reach diagonally off the mat. So you're going to reach to your left side with your right leg forward. It's your left side, and gently lower the chest down, a little bit like the posture we did with the hands out in front. The chest is lowering. You might not get as much sensation in your shoulders. I wouldn't expect that. This is mainly for the hips. And for a few breaths. And then releasing to bring the hands back onto the mat. Now we're going to take a little pause before we do the second side. So what I'd like you to do is possibly move the blanket out the way, if it's quite big like mine. Lay down on your front. Bring the forearms or hands out in front under your forehead, or you can turn the head to one side. Rest your legs, your hips, your lower back. Rest your head, of course. And steady out the breath again. Notice if it changed because of the last posture. That would be normal. Allowing it to slow down again. Okay, so from here we're going to press up back onto the knees with the hands on the floor. We're going to set up the second side for dragon posture on the left side. So again, you can pad up your knee, right knee, left foot all the way out in front. So lunge forward as far as you can for your body. Walk the left foot wide out to the left side of your mat. And then the hands are on the inside. Now, if your wrists feel quite tired because you did the first side, remember you can change the hand position. You can make a fist to straighten the wrist out. So the fist knuckles on the floor. The other thing you could do is those spider hands, which we did. You can do weight into the fingertips, which again, it's not easy, but it might just give you a little bit of rest in your and your wrists. Or you might feel that you can go lower. Again, those that can get a little bit more open in the hips. But choose your position and then resting in, settling down. Remember, we're not forcing anything to happen. We're letting the body relax. We're encouraging it to become still. And then if the body wants to, if it wants to respond, it might allow a little bit of opening. Again, it's one of those postures that feels better when you've finished. You'll feel good for it when you have finished the practice. But it can be intense. So if it is intense to hold, then back off. Less is more in this practice. It might feel intense for those of you who practice with me much more, and you've done this a lot, so you might feel more intense tonight. For some of you, if you've not done this for a while, or if like me you've been sitting more, you might feel that you need this. It might feel more intense because of that. Let's keep the legs the same. We're going to take the hands out to the right hand side, so probably off the mat. Your chest is getting a little bit lower towards the floor. Press into the hands firmly to support yourself, but otherwise the legs stay the same. And it's just for a few breaths. And then releasing. Take your time to release your hands back onto your mat. And gently dragging that left leg back. Move the blanket, lay down on your front. Again, settle in. If you turn the head, turn it the other way to balance out the neck, otherwise face down. A little bit of space between the toes, big toes, allow the heels to drop out, let the chest lower down towards the floor. So your elbows can go fairly wide and the hands all the way up to the forehead. And then rest here. Feel the breath again, still through the nose, but also feeling the breath around the chest, at the front of the body, the abdomen. And feel the quality of the breath when you're laid on your front. And then we're going to lift the feet. We're going to stay on the front just for a little bit longer. Lift the feet, bend your knees, of course, to do that. And then wiper the feet side to side, window wipers. And as you move, you can allow In fact, I want you to allow your hips to rock and lift slightly off the mat each side. It's a little bit of a twisting action, a little bit of warming in the hip, and a release around the front of the body and around the lower back. Let's slowly now release to bring yourself up onto your hands again and onto your knees. You're going to sit this time on the pelvis. You wouldn't even need to sit on anything, actually. Sometimes we do seated postures with a prop or a blanket under the hip, but for this particular one, we don't even need that. So if you don't have a blanket, it doesn't matter. You're going to sit with your right shin parallel to the top of your mat. Okay, so your right shin is parallel to the top of your mat. What I'm doing here with my left leg is I've got the left knee behind the right heel, and the left shin is almost sort of flat towards the mat with the right foot facing behind. Hope you can see that. I don't know how good that looks on the camera, actually. If this doesn't feel good in your right foot and ankle, then the other alternative is to turn the, did I say right? So this is your left foot. You can always turn your left toes out to the side if you find having the toes pointing back doesn't feel nice in your left ankle. Also, of course, be careful in your left knee. Having said that, it's fairly light around the knee joint. You can make it less intense if you need to. If it's too intense to just have the leg bent at all like that, the alternative would be to have your left leg forward and you've still got your right knee bent out to the side. Okay, so this is a version of deer pose, which you can modify a little bit according to how it feels. Don't expect your left hip to necessarily touch the floor. Might not be touching the floor for a lot of you here tonight. Your right knee might also be floating in the air like mine is too. Okay. We're going to begin to fold over the right shin. It might not be a big movement. It might not be possible for you to fold all the way down. You might find that you can just sit upright. You can reach the hands forward. You can rest the hands on the legs. If you've got the scope to go lower, you can fold all the way down. Or you might even want to come onto your forearms, which is a nice sort of medium ground where you can settle, relax as much as you can. So whatever version of deer pose works. And actually what I would advise you to do here is go with what feels the right way for you to be in this shape, especially around the ankle, the knee, and then the folding action can come from how rested you are with the rest of the body. Settle in, maybe close the eyes. Steady your breath. Try to sit heavy or sink heavy into the floor, not force the hip down, but allowing yourself to relax down. Allowing yourself to relax down. And feeling the release in the body. Let's take a few more breaths in this position. And then as we slowly release, bringing the legs forward, bending the knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug here. Let's slowly set up the second side. So left shin aligned or parallel to the top of your mat, with your right knee also bent, the right knee behind the left heel. You're going to be sitting on your left hip as you do this. Don't expect the right hip to be down. Remember, so if it feels slightly weird and wrong, awkwardness, that usually is a sign you're pretty much in the right place. I don't think this comes out that well on the screen, to be fair. I don't think you can see that side very easily. So just to recap, you've got your left heel just in front of your right knee. Your right leg, foot is facing behind with the top of the foot, or you can turn your right toes out to the side if it's more comfortable for you to manage in your ankle. Okay, whichever position you're in, try and relax as much as you can. If you're going to fold, you're folding over the shin, so fold forward, which might be feasible for some of you. You can support yourself on the way down if you found it's useful to use your elbows or your forearms. You might be more upright, which is also a great way to settle in. You don't have to fold in order to get the sensation in the hip and the legs. Try and rest, try and stay heavy into the pelvis, heavy legs. I'll stay here for just a few more breaths. So we're nearly finished this side as well. And then take your time when you're ready, taking as much time as you need to move. Again, bring your legs forward, feet on the floor, hug the legs. or similar, something similar. Maybe even rest the forehead on your knees if you're able to get there. And then we're going to lay down on the back. You don't need your blanket yet, but you're en route to relaxation, so have it close by. Resting with the feet flat on the floor again. A little bit different leg position, but it's very similar. Knees bent, of course, feet down, feet as wide as your mat. So go wider with your feet so that you can allow your knees to drop inwards. They can basically rest into each other. Make sure the feet are not too close to the hips. It's not as relaxing. So a little bit of space between your heels and your pelvis, but the knees together with the feet wide. And then we're going to bring the arms around your chest. So you're going to wrap, it doesn't matter which side, we'll do both. One arm above the other, as far across your chest as you can. So as if you're reaching your hands to your shoulder blades. Might not get that far, but it's sort of, that's the gesture or the direction of giving yourself this hug here. Rest the back of the head. Once the arms are reaching as far as you can, actually rest your arms. So let them rest onto your chest. Close the eyes, relax the face. Feel the breath in the chest, the breath with the arms. Feel the breath in the belly. Basically giving yourself that hug. I am safe. I am loved. I am held. I am safe. I am loved. I am held. Let's release the arms. We're going to recross with the second arm on top. Second side, basically the same thing. Otherwise, reach around, relax when you get there. Let the arms feel heavy. Settle in. I am safe. I am loved. I am held. I am safe. I am loved. I am held. Because in this moment, that is true. And then we'll begin to release the arms all together and relax the legs as well. Now you can keep the knees bent. In fact, if it feels good for your hips, stay with the legs as they are. Otherwise, take your time to extend the legs out. Maybe you're ready to get the legs straighter now. If you've got the legs straight, allow the toes to roll outwards away from each other so the thighs roll out, the hip joints release the thighs outwards. Relax the buttocks. And then the arms resting. So again, maybe palms towards the sky. Soften around the shoulders, let the chest drop down, relax the head and the neck. Maybe you've already pulled your blanket over you. Or maybe you're using your blanket under your head. Settle in. Close the eyes. Relax the face. Maybe you can still feel with enough attention in your body, or your attention in your body, maybe you can still feel the effect of those postures. The sense of being slightly stimulated in your shoulders and your hips, maybe around your chest as well. What might feel like almost like a little glowing feeling of feeling alive. The body's still rested and the body's still heavy, but the sense of being fully alive in this moment. Fully alive to feel that you can now rest. You're choosing to rest. If your mind is still busy, keep bringing your attention to your breath. The breath itself is still relaxed. The breath might even feel more quiet than when you started the practice. And now at this point, because the body is very still, the breath can also slow right down. Naturally, will slow down. And the breath's more of a feeling than necessarily a movement. And so we'll gently begin to wake the body up, gently moving the fingers and the toes. Beginning to move the arms, beginning to gently bend the knees. You might like to draw the knees all the way in towards your chest again, lifting the feet from the floor. Hug the legs in. Gently rock side to side. And then keep rolling all the way over to one side, whatever side makes sense in your space. Support the head with that bottom arm. Rest on the side body. Notice how you feel. Notice how the body feels. Notice how your breathing is. And then gently press into the top hand to bring yourself all the way up. Okay. So thank you for your practice this evening, everybody. I hope to see you again soon. Take care, stay safe. Namaste.